This is question 6 of the short questions. I suspect this is going to be the least frequently attempted question. And we'll see if that's right based on feedback from students when they fill in the form to let us know how they did. But I got a feeling it's a kind of mixture of geometry and trigonometry. The diagram below shows the point T on a circle. So here's point T. It has radius 2 and is centered at point 2, 0. So this is the origin over here. The angle ECT is theta, and theta is acute. Now, the very first thing there, you can see what I did is I just wrote a few things onto my diagram. It's just to give myself a better understanding of where it is, because there's a lot of information. You could get kind of overwhelmed there looking at the diagram. So, it's a good idea to do that. The diagram then shows the tangent T to the circle, okay? It is perpendicular to CT. And that's going to be important later in the question. So that's a right angle there. It intersects the x-axis at the point X, here we go, and the y-axis at the point Y. And then it says, show that the point T can be written as 2 plus 2 cos theta, comma 2 sine theta. Now, a lot of people will be unsure on how to tackle that at the start. It's a version of polar form, where in this case the circle is centered at 2, 0. But again, you can just start off, try something, maybe draw a diagram. We're looking for x, y. How are we going to find it? Well, if I form that triangle there with theta, and we know we're going to have to use theta because it's mentioned here in what we're looking for. Well, okay, I'm going to call the point x, y. So that's what they call the Cartesian form, the rectangular form, out x, up y. So the distance x is the distance from the origin, okay? But we know this distance here is 2. So therefore, we'll say the base length of the triangle is the difference between x and 2. So it's x minus 2. The y coordinate, or the height, is going to just be y, because the point of the center is 2, 0. So the point down here will be x, 0. So let me just label this point here. That'll be x, 0. So the height is y. And the hypotenuse is going to be 2. And the reason is because the radius of the circle is 2. So again, fill bits of information into the diagram. That'll help you get started. And then what you do is you say, okay, well, the cos of theta is the adjacent over hypotenuse. So x minus 2 over 2. Now, all of a sudden, we're not that far away from our answer. You multiply across by 2, isolate x, and you get what you need. X is equal to 2 plus 2 cos theta. So again, if you could get started, you'd probably get to the answer. The y part is even easier because the sine of theta is the opposite over the hypotenuse. So y over 2. So sine of theta is y over 2. Multiply across by the 2, you get y is equal to 2 sine theta. So all of a sudden, we have our answers. So it's 2 plus 2 cos theta, comma 2 sine theta. And that was 5 marks. Now, even if you didn't fully get it right, if you tried something, you'd be on low part of credit probably, and you can still keep going on to the next part, onto part B. Find the gradient of the tangent to the circle at T in terms of theta. Now, I'm hoping that everyone knows gradient is the same as slope, but again, sometimes people just mightn't have heard it. So gradient is the same as slope. So what are we going to do? We want to find the slope of the tangent. Now, we don't have enough information straight away to get the slope of the tangent, but we have more information about the slope of this radius here, because we know the center point is 2, 0, and we have our coordinate for x, our coordinates for x and y. So we can say the slope of the radius is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So, you could do it as rise over run as I have here, but it'd be y minus 0. So if we call this one x2, y2, and we call this one x1, y1. So it's y minus 0 all over x minus 2, okay? And because we know what y is equal to, y is 2 sine theta, and x is 2 plus 2 cos theta, we can fill those in. We can see what's going to happen here. The 2's are going to cancel, and then we can in fact divide a 2 into the top and the bottom. So now we have the slope of this is actually going to be equal to tan of theta. So that'd be the slope of the radius, tan theta. Because xy is perpendicular to CT, it's because the tangent is perpendicular to the radius, I can say the slope of the tangent, well, I can invert and change the sign. So I'm going to have, instead of sine theta over cos theta, I'm going to have minus cos theta over sine theta. And again, if you think about, if you go to page 14 of the table book, you'd see the cos theta over sine theta is minus, make sure I say it right. Well, the reason it's minus is just because we have our minus there already. So it's minus cotan, okay, of theta. Or some people would say, okay, well, it's minus 1 over tan theta, which is minus cotan theta. Okay, so that's your answer. We hadn't to use those for a number of years in higher level Leaving Cert maths, but in last year's Leaving Cert, they were there. So you are to be familiar with them on page 14 of the table book. So that's good, worth 5 marks for you. Okay, so that's the slope. Now we're going to use that to show the expression of the tangent, the equation of the tangent, I should say, to the circle at t can be expressed as x cos theta plus y sine theta is equal to 2 plus 2 cos theta. Okay, so what do we do? Well, we know our point at t is our x coordinate or y coordinate, 2 cos 2 theta, comma 2 sine theta. And we have our slope, which again you can write as minus cotan theta, or you can say minus cos theta over sine theta, which would be more useful in this case. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to try and get our answer to look like what's described here. So we know we're not going to have any fractions. So basically got to multiply both sides by sine of theta. Okay. So I'm multiplying both sides by sine of theta. Of course, it's going to disappear on the right-hand side, and it's going to, well, it looks like we just multiplied it over to there. But of course, we know at higher level Leaving Cert maths, we're multiplying both sides by sine theta. And then what we're going to do is we're going to multiply through the brackets. So I'll just talk you through this part to make sure we're all seeing the same thing. Sine theta times y is y sine theta. Sine theta times minus 2 sine theta will be minus 2 sine squared theta. Minus cos theta times x will be minus x cos theta. We've got to be careful with the brackets here. We're saying you might even do one extra line here to make sure you get these right. It's minus 1 times 2 is minus 2. And then you're multiplying that by minus cos theta. So that's where you get your minus times minus is plus. So it'll be plus 2 cos theta. And similarly, then you've multiplied minus 1 by 2 cos theta, get to minus 2 cos theta, but then you multiply that by minus cos theta, and you're going to get a plus 2 cos squared theta. So quite a bit in that, like a lot of people can make errors there. So let's keep going. What happens next? We're going to bring everything to one side in a moment. Well, actually, we're not, because, of course, that's not what we want at the end. We want our answer to look like this. So we're now at the stage where we're focusing in on, okay, well, what do we need our answer to look like? So I'll just remind us we're here, right? And you're keeping an eye then and saying, okay, what do I need my answer to look like? Well, on the left-hand side, I need x cos theta and y sine theta. So I've already got the y sine theta. And look over here, I've got a minus x cos theta. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add x cos theta to both sides. It'll disappear there. And so I'm going to have a plus x cos theta. That's great. And I'm going to add 2 sine squared theta to the left-hand side to get rid of it from there. And I'm going to add it on over here. Now, why am I going to do that? Well, I definitely can see I don't need it on the left-hand side. And now, again, as we've come across a couple of times before, we know that sine squared theta plus cos squared theta is going to be equal to 1. So therefore, when we factorize out our common factor here of 2, we're going to get it inside in that bracket, we're going to get 1. And hey presto, there is my answer for 10 marks. And like a lot of people mightn't love these type of questions, but you know what I do love? When a final answer appears and it's the answer that you had. It's what you're looking for. And then you know with certainty that you have it fully right. You know, that's a great feeling of satisfaction inside the exam. So now we're down to the last part. We're down to part D. Now, the truth is, I know sometimes people lose the will to go on in these questions, but you know, when you look at this, it might look horrible, but it's actually okay. The point B is 2 comma B. The point D is 4 comma D. Okay. They're on the line segment XY. Find B and D in terms of theta. Now, like I said, you know, people might have, you know, you're wading through this question for a good long while, you're losing the will to go on. However, the truth is you can do part D without doing anything else. You could have started with part D because you have your equation. You're given this equation in the last part, and look how easy it actually is. You're just putting in 2 for X and B for Y in the first one, okay? So where you had X, you're subbing in 2. Where you had Y, you're subbing in B. The 2 cos thetas will actually disappear. You divide across by the sine theta, and your B is equal to 2 over sine theta. That's fine B in terms of theta, that's it. You're going to do the same now for the 4 for point 4D. You're putting in 4 where you had X. You're putting in D where you had Y. In this case, well, okay, the cos thetas won't just disappear. You're going to have to subtract 4 cos theta from both sides. So you're going to have 2 cos theta minus 4 cos theta, but that's just going to be minus 2 cos theta. Like, because if you had 2 lots of something and then you were taking away 4 lots, you're going to have 2 lots of it. You're going to have a minus 2 of whatever that is. So in this case, it's going to be minus 2 cos theta. You're going to divide both sides by sine theta, and that's it. That's the answer for 10 marks. And just as a reminder, you could get that 10 marks without, you know, without doing anything else, without having to do part A, B, or C. You could have still got D. So that's a common reminder. We see it so often. I know people would have found that a bit hard, you know, and might still find it a bit tricky, but with enough practice, you can get to the situation where you actually enjoy those questions. You might not believe me, but someday. Okay, we're on to the long questions.